The aroma of lavender and sage saturated the atmosphere, concealing the anxiety that filled every part of our pack house. Beyond my window, the forest seemed to hold its breath in anticipation, its leaves stirring though there was no wind, as if the ancient trees themselves were whispering of the impending event. The mating ceremony took place only once a decade, when the moon achieved its greatest power, and the veil between destinies grew thin enough for true mates to find one another. For unattached females aged 18 to 30, participation was not merely suggested, it was compulsory. Yet I was confined to the attic room, where dust particles danced in the angled afternoon sun, my fingers idly tracing designs on the aged windowsill. Below I could observe the other young women of our pack being draped in silks and anointed with perfumes, their laughter reaching me like echoes from a world I was forbidden to enter. "You see why this is required, don't you, Alara?" My stepmother's voice had been cloyingly sweet as she guided me here in the morning, her grip unyielding on my shoulder. "With your affliction, it would be unkind to allow you to take part. There is no pain greater than that of false hope. My affliction was straightforward. I was an outlier. In a wolf pack where physical power was paramount, I was the oddity who had never achieved a complete shift. My partial shifts were deemed a disgrace, an indicator of a weak bloodline and diminished magic. My father had shielded me during his lifetime, but in the 3 winters since his passing, Vivian had wasted no time in putting me and everyone else in my place." I pulled at a lock of my light blonde hair, a stark contrast to the deep, dark shades of the rest of the pack, another marker of my otherness, another justification for keeping me concealed. On my nightstand rested my sole inheritance, my mother's silver pendant, etched with a crescent moon cradling a tiny star. "Remember starlight," she had murmured before the sickness claimed her when I was only 6. "Even the faintest light can show the way in the deepest dark." I had worn it every day since then, drawing fortitude from its soft weight on my skin, a constant reminder that I was my mother's child, even if I could not be the wolf the pack demanded. The noise from downstairs intensified as dusk drew near. I rested my forehead on the cool window pane, sensing the thrum of drums beginning their rhythm. A call. A summons. It was not for me. It was never for me. A quiet rap on my door made me jump. "Alara?" It was Mira, my sole friend, her voice a low whisper. "Are you presentable? I don't have long." I hurried to unbolt the door, casting a worried look toward the staircase. "You shouldn't be here," I whispered, drawing her inside. "If Vivian discovers you, they'll be calling for the procession any minute." Mira's dark eyes shone with resolve as she pushed a bundle toward me. "And that's precisely why I've brought this. I refuse to let you miss another ceremony because of that witch." The bundle revealed itself to be a simple yet elegant dress of light blue, the shade of a winter sky. "Mira, I can't." "Yes, you can." Her fingers were already undoing the buttons of my worn gray dress. "Your father was an elder. You have just as much right to be present as anyone else." "You know it isn't that easy," I said, clutching my pendant. "The last time I attempted to join a pack gathering—" "You were 15, Mira's tone softened. "We are adults now. Besides, this is no ordinary gathering. The Alpha King himself is here." My heart faltered. "What? King Nathaniel never comes to regional ceremonies?" "Something is different. Word is he is finally searching for his queen." "A queen?" The notion made me want to laugh. Alphas paired with other alphas, or powerful betas at the very least, not with half-wolves incapable of a full transformation. And yet, as Mira assisted me into the dress, a feeling stirred within my chest. It was not hope. I had learned to suppress that specific emotion years ago. It was curiosity. The Alpha King was a figure of legend, his pack the most powerful in the 5 territories. Stories of his ferocity on the battlefield and his resolute defense of his people had penetrated even my secluded corner of the world. "There," Mira said, stepping away to admire her handiwork. She had plaited sections of my hair and secured them with small crystal clips that glinted in the fading light. "Now you look like who you are, the daughter of an elder." The fabric felt softer than anything I had worn in years. "How will I ever get past Vivian?" Mira's smile turned sly. "She's far too preoccupied with ensuring her own daughters eclipse everyone else." The side door near the kitchens is unguarded. Wait for the third horn blast, then hurry down the servants' stairs and take the stream path to the ceremony field. The remote sound of the first horn made us both startle. I must go, Mira said, squeezing my hands. Promise me you will be there. After her departure I remained motionless, the dress whispering around my ankles. The second horn blared, its low pitch vibrating up through the floor. My fingers instinctively sought my mother's pendant. As I traced its familiar shape, her words echoed. Even the faintest light can show the way in the deepest dark. When the third horn sounded, I was already making my way down the cramped servants' staircase, my heart pounding more loudly than my feet. The woods received me like a familiar companion, its branches parting to let streams of moonlight illuminate my way. I followed the brook as Mira had directed, its soft babbling providing a counter-melody to the escalating drums and voices up ahead. The smell of ceremonial bonfires and incense grew more potent, blending with the primal scent of wolves and humans congregated in their most elemental state. I paused at the verge of the clearing. Hundreds of wolves from adjacent packs occupied the hallowed ground, their collective energy almost tangible from my position. In the center roared a colossal bonfire, its flames stretching up to the full moon above, and there, on an elevated platform, sat the Council of Elders, and him. Even at this range, the Alpha King was unmistakable. Nathaniel Blackthorne drew attention effortlessly, his very being a gravitational pull that seemed to warp the air itself. His shoulders were broad under a jet-black cloak, his features chiseled with the sort of authority born from both lineage and conflict. Yet it was his stillness that captivated me. As others moved and conversed around him, he was a center of unmoving focus, as if the world's chaos had long ago learned to break upon him rather than pass through him. I should not be here. This was utter folly. I took a step backward, intending to melt back into the shadows, but a cluster of laughing females shoved past me and into the clearing. The motion propelled me forward, out from my sanctuary and into the firelight. For a single breathless second, nobody paid me any mind. I kept my head bowed, skirting the edge of the assembly, hoping to spot Mira in the throng. The ceremony was underway, with young females from every pack being presented to the Alpha King and his council. Most earned little more than a brief look before being let go with a courteous nod. This was not unexpected. True mates were exceedingly rare, and not even the Alpha King could compel a bond that was not fated. I had almost made it to a grove of trees offering concealment when a quiet descended upon the gathering. The drums, a steady pulse until now, abruptly ceased. The ensuing silence was so profound I could hear the fire crackle. "Proceed with the presentations," a voice commanded, deep, resonant, and undeniably authoritative. The king had spoken, but the quiet lingered. I risked a look behind me and was frozen in place. Every head had swiveled to face me. Every single eye was on me, and in the very center the Alpha King had risen, his stare piercing mine from across the clearing. "You," he said, the one word echoing through the silent night. "Step forward." My legs refused to obey. They were rooted to the spot. This could not be real. Around me, murmurs began to spread through the assembly. "Who is that? Is that Edward's daughter? The half-shift? Impossible." Then a known voice laced with fury. "Alara." "What do you think you're doing here?" Vivian broke through the crowd, her expression a mask of fury and something else, fear. "Your Majesty, forgive this interruption. This girl is unwell. She does not belong here. I will see to her removal at once." I felt her hand seize my arm, her fingernails pressing into my flesh. Shame, hot and familiar, coursed through me. I should have known better than to attempt this. "Release her." The order sliced through the night like steel. The Alpha King had left the dais and was striding toward us, the crowd parting for him like the sea. Vivian's hold on my arm tightened for a moment, then vanished. He halted just a few feet away, and I couldn't bring myself to meet his eyes. The sheer power he exuded was suffocating, weighing on my senses. When his fingers made contact with my chin, lifting my face to his, I nearly choked on a gasp. It was like being struck by lightning, a jolt of both pain and euphoria. In the firelight his eyes were amber, ringed with gold at the pupils. They widened a fraction as they scanned my face, a glimmer of what looked like recognition in their depths. "What is your name?" he asked, his voice softer now, but just as commanding. "Alara, your Majesty." My voice was barely audible. A smile flickered across his lips, brief, predatory, and possessive. "Alara," he echoed, as if savoring the name. He then faced the astonished crowd, his hand remaining on my face. "The ceremony is over. I have found her." The collective intake of breath was a palpable whoosh like a gust of wind through the trees. I felt unsteady, detached from reality. This was impossible. The Alpha King could not possibly be referring to... "Your Majesty," Vivian's voice broke in again, now filled with desperation. "There must be some misunderstanding. Alara is... mine," he finished, the word a deep growl that resonated with such power that even Vivian was silenced. "By the sacred rites and in the presence of all witnesses, I claim this female as my mate." As the weight of his declaration settled, the ground seemed to shift under me. The last thing I registered before succumbing to darkness was the look of fierce triumph in the Alpha King's eyes as he reached forward to catch me. I awoke enveloped in unfamiliar opulence, with silk sheets caressing my skin and the fragrance of sandalwood incense drifting through the air. For a second I remained perfectly still, certain I was in a dream. The ceiling above was vaulted with elaborate wooden beams that curved like the skeleton of a massive creature. This was not my attic room with its water-damaged ceiling and groaning floor. Then the memories flooded back. The ceremony, the crowd's murmurs, the Alpha King's proclamation. I shot up, pulling the sheets to my chest. "You are awake." The voice originated from a corner of the chamber where shadows clung, despite the morning sun pouring through high windows. He emerged, and my breath hitched. By the ceremonial fire, the Alpha King had been formidable. By daylight he was breathtaking. Tall and broad, he carried himself with the restrained force of a predator. Muscles rippled beneath his simple black shirt, and his face was worthy of an ancient coin. A strong jaw, high cheekbones, and those amber and gold eyes that observed me with an intensity that made my skin tingle. "Where am I?" I asked, though I had a strong suspicion. "My personal chambers in your pack's lodge." He drew nearer, and I resisted the impulse to recoil. "I assumed you would prefer to awaken somewhere private after last night's commotion." Last night's public disgrace was what he meant. I had passed out before hundreds of wolves from across the 5 territories. "There has been a mistake," I said, the words rushing out before I could check them. "You cannot possibly desire me for a mate." One of his eyebrows lifted. "Can I not?" "I am not." I took a difficult breath. "I cannot complete my shift. I am seen as flawed within my own pack. You are the Alpha King. You require someone powerful, someone who can be your equal and command respect." A dangerous light flashed in his expression. "Are you rejecting me, little wolf?" The menace in his tone should have frightened me, but an odd sense of peace came over me instead. What else could they take from me? My life had already been one of loneliness and humiliation. "I am attempting to prevent you from making a political blunder," I said, meeting his stare directly. "An Alpha King with a half-shift mate will be ridiculed. Your adversaries will perceive it as a weakness." He moved with such speed I hardly saw it happen before he was beside me, a knee on the bed, his face mere inches from mine. A large hand cupped my cheek, his thumb grazing my lower lip in a gesture that was both gentle and proprietary. "Allow me to be perfectly clear, Alara," he said, my name a soft sound on his lips. "I have dedicated 15 years to building an empire that spans 5 territories. I have put down rebellions, united feuding packs, and forged peace where only conflict existed. No one would have the audacity to mock my choice of mate, regardless of her capacity to shift." His closeness was overpowering. His scent of pine, smoke, and something distinctly masculine filled my lungs. The hand on my face moved into my hair, supporting the back of my head. "Besides," he went on, his voice lowering to a vibration I felt more than heard, "you are as aware as I am that this is about more than politics. You felt it last night the moment our eyes met, the connection that is already taking shape between us." I wanted to refute it, but the denial would not form. I had felt something, a sense of recognition, an attraction to him that went against all reason and self-preservation. "Why me?" I whispered, out of all the females present. His thumb traced my jawline. "The moon selects our mates, little wolf, not our logical minds. Something within you speaks to the most primal core of my being." His eyes grew darker. "Now tell me, do you feel nothing when I touch you like this?" His fingers moved down my neck to the dip in my throat, where my mother's pendant lay. The simple contact sent a wave of shivers through me, my body reacting to him despite myself. I was unable to complete the thought, too inundated with feelings I had never known. A pleased smile appeared on his lips. That is what I thought. He drew back a little, giving me space to breathe. You will have an opportunity to get used to the idea, Alara. I am not a brute who forces himself on reluctant females, despite any tales you may have heard. A mix of relief and strangely disappointment washed over me. So you are not truly claiming me. Oh, I am most certainly claiming you. His voice was unequivocal, but the mating ritual will wait until you are prepared. For now you will come back with me to the capital to assume your position as my chosen. The capital, the center of the Alpha King's domain, a place I knew only from legends. Your stepmother no longer has any power over you, his face hardened, though I confess her behavior last night has piqued my curiosity. Why would she conceal you from the ceremony? The familiar shame resurfaced. Because I am a source of embarrassment. My father was an elder held in high esteem. To have a daughter who cannot fully shift was a poor reflection on his mate. My mother. Your mother. His expression shifted. Tell me about her. I touched my pendant out of habit. She passed away when I was a child. She was different, like me. My father loved her regardless, but after his death I had no one left to defend me. Nathaniel's gaze tracked the motion of my hand. May I? He inquired, motioning toward the pendant. I nodded hesitantly. His touch was surprisingly delicate as he lifted the silver crescent and star to inspect it. This emblem, he murmured, do you understand its meaning? My mother said it symbolized a guide in the dark, that even the smallest light can show the way in the deepest night. A flicker of shadow crossed his features. It signifies more than that. He let the pendant fall back into place against my skin. Much more, but that is a discussion for another day. For the moment, you need to get ready to depart. We leave for the capital at noon. So soon? A flutter of panic rose in my chest. I have nothing packed, no possessions. Everything you require will be arranged. He stood, creating distance between us. Unless there is something particular you want to bring? I considered my meager belongings in the attic, a couple of frayed dresses, my father's worn books, small trinkets I had gathered in the forest, nothing of consequence except. Just this, I said, touching the pendant. And could I say farewell to my friend Mira? He gave a nod. Of course, I will have someone sent to assist you. He started for the door but stopped with his hand on the handle. One last thing, Alara. You referred to your inability to shift as a flaw. He turned back to me, his stare intense. I suspect you will discover it is not a flaw at all, but rather the mark of something exceedingly rare and precious, something your stepmother might have had cause to fear. Before I could question him further, he was gone, leaving me with a host of new questions. True to his word, servants appeared soon after. They were not pack members I knew, but his own staff, who showed me a level of respect that made me uneasy. They provided garments more exquisite than any I had ever owned, helped me bathe in perfumed water, and arranged my pale blonde hair with expert hands. Throughout the process, I felt like an observer in someone else's life, a peculiar dream I was bound to wake from. Mira found me as I was completing my preparations. She rushed into the room, her eyes wide with a mix of excitement and worry. Alara, she hugged me tightly. The whole pack is in chaos. Is it true? The Alpha King has really chosen you? It would appear so, I replied, still finding it hard to grasp myself. We are heading to the capital today. The capital? She stepped back to look at me. This is beyond anything we ever dreamed of. How are you feeling? How was I feeling? Frightened, bewildered, oddly thrilled. I don't know, I confessed. It's all happening so fast. Yesterday I was a prisoner in the attic, and today I am supposedly the future queen of the 5 territories. Mira's face grew serious. Vivian is livid. She's been telling anyone who will listen that you must have deceived the king somehow, used some form of forbidden magic. I gave a bitter laugh. Of course she is. No one is buying it, Mira reassured me. They saw how he looked at you. Everyone recognizes the start of a true mate bond when they see it. A knock at the door cut us off. A tall woman with short dark hair and a warrior's posture entered. her demeanor professional but not unfriendly. "My lady, the king requests your presence in the Great Hall. The Pack Alpha wants to officially recognize your new standing before you leave." My stomach churned with unease. The Pack Alpha, Vivian's brother, had stood by while she treated me like little more than a scullery maid since my father's death. Mira squeezed my hand. "I will be there," she vowed. "This is your time, Alara. Don't forget who you are. Who was I?" The question resonated as I trailed the female warrior through halls that now felt unfamiliar, despite this lodge being my home my entire life. People paused to stare as I went by, their faces showing a mix of wonder, bewilderment, and open dislike. I held my head high, even as my heart pounded against my chest. The great hall was filled with pack members, the air thick with their collective heat and stress. At the far end stood Nathaniel, magnificent in formal black and silver attire, a simple crown of intertwined metal denoting his rank. Next to him was Alpha Marcus, our pack leader, looking visibly ill at ease. And off to the side were Vivian and her 2 daughters, their expressions rigid with barely suppressed rage. As I advanced, the crowd split, their whispers trailing behind me. I kept my eyes on Nathaniel, finding strength in the look of approval he gave me as I neared. Alpha Marcus cleared his throat. "Members of the Northern Pine Pack, we are here to witness a momentous occasion. Our pack has received the honor of the Alpha King selecting a mate from our ranks." His words were proper, but his tone belied his agitation. This was not the union he had envisioned. He had undoubtedly anticipated Nathaniel would pick one of the more powerful females, maybe even one of Vivian's daughters, Ilara. "Daughter of Elder Edward," he announced. "Come forward and be acknowledged." I stepped forward to face him, my back held rigid and my eyes fixed forward. "By the ancestral laws that rule all packs, you are hereby absolved of your duties to this pack and recognized as the chosen mate of Alpha King Nathaniel Blackthorn. May the moon grace your union and fortify the ties between our peoples." The speech was purely formal, lacking any real warmth, but it fulfilled the requirements of the occasion. I inclined my head in recognition, and as custom dictated, turned to address the pack. It was then that Vivian came forward, her voice slicing through the ceremonial decorum. "One moment, brother, before we dispatch our charge to the capital. Should we not guarantee the Alpha King is thoroughly appraised of her circumstances?" A deep growl vibrated from Nathaniel's chest, but Vivian persisted, her eyes shining with malevolence. After all, we would not want His Majesty to learn too late that his chosen mate can scarcely produce claws, much less execute a proper shift. What sort of queen would she be? What kind of offspring could she possibly— Enough! Nathaniel's command was as sharp as a whip's crack. He moved to my side, his hand settling with a proprietary air on the small of my back. "I am entirely cognizant of Alara's distinct nature, which I consider far more precious than the commonplace strength so many of you esteem." The atmosphere in the hall grew heavy as he faced down Vivian, his authority expanding to fill the room until breathing became a conscious effort. "In fact," he went on, his tone now deceptively mild, "I am left to wonder why you go to such lengths to conceal her. What is it about Alara that instills such fear in you, Vivian?" Vivian's face lost its color. I was merely looking out for her." "And our pack's honor, was that it?" Nathaniel's smile was cold. "It is curious how your protection bore such a strong resemblance to incarceration." He shifted his attention to the entire pack, his arm now wrapped securely around my waist. "Let me state this unequivocally. Alara is now under my protection. Any sign of disrespect towards her will be taken as a personal affront to me. And I am certain none of you are eager to affront your king. The menace lingered in the air, potent and clear. I should have felt protected, yet a chilling sensation settled deep within my stomach. Whatever was unfolding here was more complex than a mere mate bond. There were undercurrents I could not decipher, secrets being withheld from me. As we departed the hall, our eyes met one final time. Beneath her fury and shame, I glimpsed something I had not anticipated. True fear. The trip to the capital spanned 3 days, yet it felt like entering another realm. Having never been beyond the confines of our territory, I was captivated by the shifting scenery visible from the windows of the king's opulent caravan. Thick woods yielded to undulating hills, which then flattened into vast plains where the grass moved in waves beneath the wind. Throughout the journey, Nathaniel was an enigma. He would sometimes sit opposite me for long stretches, inquiring about my life, my private thoughts, my simple pleasures and griefs. At other times he would withdraw into a deep silence, his mind engaged in some internal debate I could not penetrate. At night he honored my privacy, ensuring we had separate sleeping arrangements, despite the suggestive looks from his guards. On the last day, as the path began to ascend into the mountain pass leading to the capital, he came to the window beside me, his nearness warming the space between us. "Tell me your thoughts," he requested, his voice quiet enough to be unheard by the guards at the caravan's front. After a moment's hesitation, I chose candor. "That I cannot comprehend why I am here, why you selected me." His fingers grazed mine on the sill, a simple gesture that sent a jolt through me. "Is it truly so hard to accept that the moon selected you for me?" "Yes," I confessed. "I have lived my whole life being reminded of my failings. To be abruptly told I am deserving of all this," I gestured ambiguously at the lavishness that enclosed us, "feels like an error that is about to be rectified." His features hardened. "Your stepmother has a great deal to account for." "It wasn't only her, it was the whole system. The pact structure prioritizes power above everything. I was a living testament to the fact that bloodlines can be weakened." His hand now enveloped mine, its warmth a secure anchor. "There are various forms of strength, Alara. The capacity to withstand contempt without succumbing to cruelty is a rare and valuable trait." His thumb made slow circles on the inside of my wrist. "In any case, your bloodline is anything but weakened. It is simply different." There it was again, the allusion to something he knew but was keeping from me. Before I could inquire further, he gestured out the window. "Look, your first sight of Blackthorn City." My breath caught as we cleared the pass and the valley unfolded below. The capital was spread across the basin, a gem nestled in the mountain's protective embrace. Stone structures ascended the low slopes, their red-tiled roofs shining in the afternoon light. In the very center, a colossal edifice of dark stone and glass dominated the skyline. It could only be the royal residence. "It's magnificent," I breathed. "It's home," he said with simple finality, "and it is now yours, too." As our caravan made its way down into the valley, people began to line the road, their numbers swelling as we neared the city gates. They waved and shouted greetings, some offering flowers or small gifts. Nathaniel acknowledged them with a raised hand and a kingly nod, the picture of the powerful monarch they revered. "They have heard of you," he clarified. "Information spreads quickly in the wolf territories." "What have they heard?" I asked, suddenly feeling exposed. A slight smile touched his lips. "That their king has at last found his mate. That she is lovely, with hair the color of moonlight. That she has a quiet grace, despite enduring years of poor treatment." A blush warmed my cheeks. "You've been spreading tales about me." "I've been spreading the truth," he countered. "Though I did omit the part where you fainted into my arms the instant I claimed you, I thought you might appreciate the omission." For the first time since this entire affair began, I laughed. It was a genuine surprised sound that seemed to delight him. The city itself was a sensory overload. The sounds, the smells, the sheer number of people all pressing forward for a look at their king and his chosen mate. I instinctively pulled back, but Nathaniel's arm provided a solid, comforting presence around me. "Breathe," he whispered near my hair. "They are merely curious. In time they will grow to love you as—" He cut himself off. "As what?" I prompted. His eyes met mine, revealing a mix of ferocity and vulnerability. "As I am beginning to." The words hung in the air between us, a truth neither of us was quite ready to inspect too closely. I turned my gaze back to the window, focusing on the splendid palace that loomed larger with every passing moment. Guards in silver and black flanked the approach to immense doors carved with the likeness of a great wolf baying at the moon, the crest of the Blackthorn line. "Welcome to your new home, Alara," Nathaniel said as the caravan halted before the imposing entrance. "Are you ready?" I was not in the slightest, but I nodded all the same. My mother's pendant felt suddenly weighty against my chest, a link to who I was and where I had come from. Whatever lay in wait for me beyond those walls, I would meet it with the quiet fortitude she had bequeathed to me. The subsequent hours were a whirlwind of introductions and procedures. There was an endless parade of names and faces, advisors, palace staff, and nobles from influential families who were currently at court. I found it difficult to keep them all straight, thankful for Nathaniel's constant presence and the subtle direction of Lydia, the warrior from my pack's lodge, who, it turned out, had been appointed as my personal guard. "Don't trouble yourself with remembering them all," she advised during a rare quiet moment. "Half are only here to size you up and send reports back to their own packs." "Size me up," I repeated, a sudden chill running through me despite the palace's warmth. Lydia's look was both sympathetic and direct. "You are an unknown quantity, my lady. The Alpha King has never before expressed a desire for a mate, and now he brings you back, someone unheard of, from a lesser northern pack. Someone flawed," I added, the bitterness evident in my voice. Her gaze sharpened. "I would not use that word within the king's earshot. He seems quite protective of you." Before I could reply, a servant arrived to show me to my prepared chambers, a suite of rooms more extensive than the whole upper level of my former pack house. The decor was tasteful and refined, done in calming shades of blue and silver. "The king believed you would appreciate a chance to rest before the evening meal," the servant noted, indicating the various features. "He asks for your presence in the small dining hall at 8, should you feel inclined." Once by myself, I moved through the rooms in a stupor, my fingers gliding over rich textiles and smooth, polished wood. The bathing chamber featured a sunken tub large enough for swimming, which filled with hot, fragrant water with a turn of a handle. Fresh garments had been arranged on the enormous bed, simple but exquisitely made pieces that were somehow perfectly my size. I lay in the bath until my skin wrinkled, attempting to make sense of all that had transpired. Only 4 days prior, I was Alara the half-shift, concealed in an attic, ashamed to be endured. Now, what was I? The Alpha King's chosen mate, certainly. But what did that truly signify for me, for my life to come? As the dinner hour neared, I donned a gown of deep blue that made my fair hair look almost silver. I had just fastened my mother's pendant when a knock sounded at the door. Nathaniel was in the hallway, having exchanged his travel wear for more formal clothing that highlighted his broad shoulders and lean power. For a second he just gazed at me, a look akin to awe on his face. "You look stunning," he said at last, extending his arm. I accepted it, acutely conscious of his warmth through the fine material of his sleeve. "Thank you for the clothes, and for these rooms. They are lovely." "Are they to your liking? They can be altered if you wish for something else." "No, they are wonderful. I'm just—" I paused. "I am not accustomed to having so much room for myself." His jaw clenched, a visible sign of the anger he still felt toward my stepmother and pack. "You will never be confined again, Alara. That is my promise to you." The small dining hall was an intimate room with a table that might seat a dozen, though it was set for only 2. Candlelight provided the main illumination, its warm glow softening the stone and casting long shadows. "I thought you might find a quieter evening more agreeable," Nathaniel said as he pulled out my chair. "The formal court dinners can be quite overwhelming." Relief flowed through me. "Thank you. I don't believe I'm prepared to deal with a large group yet." Servants entered with wine and the first course, a delicate fish dish I had never seen before. While they attended to us, I caught Nathaniel studying me with that same intensity that simultaneously unsettled and excited me. "You have questions," he stated once we were alone. "I can read them in your eyes." I took a sip of wine to bolster my courage. Several hundred of them, I think. That brought forth a genuine smile, which completely altered his normally severe expression. "Begin with one." I thought for a moment. "At the lodge, you recognized my pendant. You said it had a deeper meaning than I understood. What did you mean?" His face turned serious once more. "Forthright and insightful. I admire that in you." He put down his silverware. "The emblem on your pendant, the crescent moon holding a star, is the sigil of the Moon Speakers, an ancient lineage of wolves possessing abilities that transcend the physical." "Moon Speakers?" The term felt foreign on my lips. I have never heard of such a thing. Not many have in these times. It was believed they had vanished generations ago. His gaze remained fixed on me. They served as advisors to kings, arbiters between packs, and healers of both flesh and spirit. Their strength was not in their physical form, but in their connection to the very soul of the wolf. I frowned, trying to process his words. And you believe my mother was one of these moon speakers? I am certain of it. He reached over the table, his fingers lightly touching the pendant. This is not merely a piece of jewelry, Alara. It is a focus stone, handed down from one moon speaker to the next. Your mother must have known what you would become when she entrusted it to you. The room seemed to spin, the magnitude of his words almost too great to comprehend. But that is impossible. I can barely manage a partial shift. I possess no special powers. Are you certain? His voice was soft. Have you never had knowledge of things you couldn't possibly know, or felt the emotions of others as if they were your own? Have you not found that animals are unusually drawn to you, that plants seem to thrive under your touch? My breath hitched. A series of small, disconnected moments from my life suddenly clicked into a new, coherent picture. The wounded fox that had come to me in the woods, the neglected garden that had revived after I tended to it, the strange and accurate sense I sometimes had of what people were feeling. These are but faint signs, Nathaniel explained. The full scope of a moon speaker's powers usually manifests after their 21st year, often ignited by a significant emotional event. His face darkened. Your stepmother might have suspected your true nature. That would account for her insistence on keeping you isolated, particularly from rituals associated with the moon. But why would she fear something like that? I whispered. Power, little wolf. Moon speakers wielded immense influence in the old world. Some alphas found it threatening, especially those whose authority was precarious. He leaned in closer. Your 21st birthday. When is it? In 3 weeks, I confessed, a tremor passing through me. A look of satisfaction appeared in his eyes. The autumn equinox, the timing is perfect. Perfect for what? For you to claim your inheritance. He took my hand, his thumb stroking my palm in a way that was both calming and deeply personal. And for our mating ceremony. The world seemed to shrink to the point of contact between our hands, a warmth spiraling up my arm. You still want to go through with it, even after learning what I might be? Alara. My name was a tender sound on his lips. I want it because of what you are. Do you not see what this could mean? An Alpha King bound to a moon speaker? It is a union that has not occurred in centuries. Together, we could unify the territories in a way no one has ever achieved. His voice was filled with passion, with vision, with ambition, but there was something else as well, something that made me pull my hand away. Is that the reason you chose me? I asked softly. For the political gain? Nathaniel went still, his face becoming an unreadable mask. Is that your conclusion? I think you saw my pendant at the ceremony. I think you understood its significance before you ever declared me your mate. The pieces were assembling themselves now. You were not drawn to me by destiny or the moon. You saw a strategic advantage. He rose suddenly, striding to the window where moonlight pooled on the stone floor. For a long moment he stood in silence, his back to me, his shoulders taut with tension. Yes, he said at last. I recognized the pendant, and yes, I knew what it could signify. He turned to face me, his eyes seeming to glow in the low light. But if you think that is the sole reason I claimed you, then you understand nothing at all. In 3 quick steps he was in front of me, drawing me up to my feet with a gentle but firm hand. He cupped my face, compelling me to meet his gaze. I have spent 15 years forging peace through power and intimidation, he said, his voice low and fervent. 15 years watching every shadow, trusting no one entirely, making the brutal decisions required to keep the territories from collapsing back into chaos. Do you truly believe I would shackle myself for life to someone merely for a political edge? His thumb traced my bottom lip, his eyes tracking the motion with a hunger that stole my breath. The instant I saw you at the edge of that clearing, doing everything you could to remain unseen, some part of me recognized some part of you. Call it destiny, call it the will of the moon, call it whatever you wish. But it was real, Alara, as real as this. He bent his head slowly, allowing me time to retreat. When I did not, his lips brushed against mine, a question, not a command. And in spite of my reservations, in spite of the voice of reason shouting warnings in my head, I responded by leaning into him, my hands gripping the fabric of his shirt. The kiss intensified, a gentle inquiry evolving into something more primal as his arms wrapped fully around me. I felt the deep rumble of a growl in his chest as my fingers wove into his hair, pulling him even closer. When we finally separated, both of us breathless, his eyes had changed. They were more wolf than man now, the amber having deepened to a liquid gold. "Political advantage," he said hoarsely, his forehead resting on mine. "Is that what this feels like to you?" I could not lie. Not with his scent enveloping me, not with the lingering sensation of his kiss on my lips. "No," I whispered. "It feels like I am both drowning and taking flight." His smile was slow, filled with satisfaction. "Good. Hold on to that feeling, little wolf. It is the truth between us, regardless of whatever else you may come to doubt." The next 3 weeks were a chaotic rush of activity. As news of my impending formal union with the Alpha King circulated, dignitaries and pack alphas from all 5 territories started to converge on the palace, each carrying gifts and a poorly concealed curiosity about the mysterious female who had ensnared their ruler. I was given tutors who tried to instill years of court etiquette in a matter of days, endured dress fittings that left me drained, and was subjected to a constant stream of introductions to people whose names became a blur. Through it all, Nathaniel was a fleeting presence, sometimes whisking me away for quiet moments in the palace gardens, or joining me for late-night suppers after the court had gone to bed, but more often he was consumed by his duties. "I'm sorry," he said one evening, finding me alone on my balcony, gazing at the moon that was waxing fuller each night. "This is not how I envisioned your first weeks here." I turned to face him, noting the faint shadows under his eyes, and the tension that always seemed to reside in his shoulders. "You are a king. I am aware that comes with obligations." He came to stand beside me, so close our arms touched. "Nevertheless, I have cast you into the deep end, and left you to fend for yourself." "I am more resilient than I appear," I told him, surprised at how true the words felt. My tone drew a smile from him. "Yes, you most certainly are." His hand sought mine, our fingers lacing together as if it were the most natural thing. "How are the dreams?" The dreams had begun a week after we arrived. They were intense, unsettling visions that had me waking with a gasp in the dead of night. Sometimes I witnessed ancient rites under starry skies. Other times I saw battles where wolves and humans fought as one, and occasionally there were quiet scenes between mothers and daughters, passing on lore in hushed tones. More intense, I confessed. Last night I dreamed of a ring of women standing in the moonlight, their hands clasped. They were chanting, but the words were foreign to me. Nathaniel gave a nod, unsurprised. "Your powers are awakening as the equinox draws near. The dreams are memories, not your own, but those of the moon speakers who came before you." "How do you know so much about this?" I inquired, a question I had asked before, but never received a complete answer to. This time he seemed willing to divulge more. "My grandmother was the last known alpha to have a moon speaker as an advisor. Before her passing, she extracted a promise from me to watch for indications of their return." His thumb made slow circles on my palm. "She was convinced the divided territories would never achieve genuine peace without the equilibrium they offered. Is that the reason you've made such an effort to attend every regional ceremony for the last 10 years? You were searching for a moon speaker." He pivoted to face me, his other hand rising to sweep a stray lock of hair from my cheek. "I was searching for a glimmer of hope," he said plainly. "Instead, I discovered you." The warmth in his voice caused a pang in my chest. In these unguarded moments, it was easy to dismiss the doubts that still troubled me, the worry that my value was tied more to what I might become than to who I already was. "What if I'm not what you believe me to be?" I whispered. "What if the visions are merely dreams, and I never manifest these powers you're anticipating?" His gaze held firm. "Then you will still be Alara, the woman who confronts every new obstacle with serene bravery, the woman who has reintroduced light into chambers that have been dark for far too long." A smile touched his lips. "The woman who consistently refuses to let me win at chess despite me being her king." I couldn't help but laugh. "You're dreadful at chess. Your tactics are all brute strength with no subtlety." "So you repeatedly inform me." His smile gradually vanished, his face growing serious once more. Alara, there is something I need you to understand before the ceremony. Whatever powers you do or do not gain, whatever political benefits arise from our union, they are of secondary importance. It was you I chose, and it is you I continue to choose, each and every day." The conviction in his eyes made it difficult to breathe. Slowly, with purpose, I stood on my toes and pressed my lips to his, initiating our kiss for the first time. His reaction was instantaneous, his arms wrapping around me as he deepened the kiss, a pleased growl vibrating deep in his chest. When we drew apart, his eyes had transformed again, the wolf within him very near the surface. "You make it exceedingly difficult to uphold my promise to wait until after the ceremony," he murmured, his breath warm against my neck. I felt a shiver at the sensation. "Perhaps that's my goal." His laugh was a strained sound. "Temptress, but certain traditions are worth upholding." With a visible effort, he took a step back, putting space between us. "3 more days, little wolf. After that nothing will ever stand between us again." As he departed, the cool night air took the place of his warmth, and I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly filled with uncertainty. In 3 days I would be eternally linked to this man who remained, in many respects, a stranger to me. In 3 days, if the ancient calendars were correct, my latent powers were supposed to fully awaken. In 3 days my life would be irrevocably altered. Again. I clutched my mother's pendant, drawing solace from its familiar shape. "What am I meant to do?" I whispered into the stillness. "How can I possibly be what everyone needs?" The only reply was the distant howl of wolves from the mountains surrounding the city, a desolate sound that seemed to mirror the yearning in my own soul. The night prior to the autumn equinox, sleep eluded me. My chambers felt claustrophobic, the air too heavy and still. I slid out of bed, draped a cloak over my nightgown, and padded barefoot through the silent halls of the palace. The guards acknowledged me with respectful nods, but did not try to impede my progress. Nathaniel's command, no doubt, to ensure I would never feel like a prisoner again. My aimless path took me to the palace archives, a cavernous chamber filled with ancient books and scrolls. I had paid a brief visit during my whirlwind education, but had lacked the time for a proper exploration. Now, guided by an instinct I couldn't explain, I navigated the rows of shelves until I reached a section that appeared more ancient than the others, its books bound in aged leather and discolored fabric. A single volume drew my gaze, a thin book covered in pale blue leather with an unadorned spine. Upon opening it, I found pages filled with handwritten prose in a graceful cursive hand, illustrated with detailed drawings of lunar phases and herbs arranged in ritual patterns. "A moon speaker's journal," a voice from the shadows declared, startling me so much I almost let the book fall. An elderly woman stepped out from between the shelves, her silver hair intricately braided, her bearing still regal despite her age. I had a vague memory of her from court events. Lady Eleanor, Nathaniel's great-aunt, and one of his most trusted counselors. "I'm sorry," I stammered. "I wasn't trying to intrude. It is no intrusion. In truth, I have been expecting you." She gestured toward the book I was holding. "That was my mother's, the last royal moon speaker. I had a feeling you would find your way to it." I stared at her bewildered. "Your mother was a moon speaker, but that would mean—" "The gift is not always passed directly from mother to daughter," she clarified, stepping closer. "It can skip generations or remain latent if the circumstances are not conducive." Her sharp eyes studied me. "Your mother hailed from the Eastern Territories, did she not?" I nodded, taken aback. "How did you know?" "The pendant. It is the mark of the Eastern line of moon speakers, who were masters of healing and dream-walking." She extended a hand, her fingers hovering just above the silver crescent. "I did not inherit the abilities myself, but I see the signs in you. The dreams have begun, have they not?" "Yes," I confessed. "And other things. Yesterday I sensed a servant approaching my door before she knocked. The day before that, I felt Nathaniel's anger from 3 rooms away while he was in a council meeting." Lady Eleanor nodded, a look of satisfaction on her face. "Your powers are awakening on their own, which is a positive sign. Some moon speakers needed a ritual to help with the transition." She indicated the book. "Take it. It is more yours now than it is a part of our family's archives." As I took the journal, a question that had been smoldering within me for weeks finally broke free. Why did no one ever tell me what I am? My mother must have known, but she never mentioned it before she died. My father kept her pendant for me, but he never explained what it meant. A shadow of sorrow crossed the old woman's face. Fear, my child. After the last great war, moon speakers were hunted by those who held them responsible for influencing pack alliances. Many went into hiding, concealing their gifts and instructing their daughters to do likewise. She placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Your mother likely hoped you could lead an ordinary life, that the gift would stay dormant within you. But it didn't, I whispered. No. And perhaps that is for the best. The territories are in need of balance once more. Her expression turned grave. Nathaniel is a fine king, but he governs by strength alone. That path ultimately leads to either rebellion or decay. I held the journal more tightly. And I am supposed to be this balance. I hardly know what I am. Lady Eleanor's smile was surprisingly warm. You will learn. The wisdom resides in your bloodline, within your dreams. And now, she gestured to the book, it is in your hands. Before I could pose more questions, a disturbance broke out somewhere in the palace, shouts and the sound of frantic footsteps. Lady Eleanor's face grew taut, her head cocked as if she could hear something beyond my perception. What is it? I asked, a sudden chill of dread washing over me. Intruders. East wing. Her eyes locked with mine. You must go now. Get to your chambers and lock the door. The guards will come for you. I hesitated, unwilling to leave her by herself. Go, child. The future queen cannot be discovered wandering unprotected during a palace breach. The future queen. The title still felt ill-fitting, but the duty it carried spurred me to action. I clutched the journal to my chest and sped back through the corridors, my bare feet making no sound on the stone. As I approached my rooms, the sounds of fighting grew more distinct. Snarls, crashes, the unmistakable sounds of wolves in combat within confined spaces. I had just made it to my door when a figure shot out from a side hall, cutting off my escape. For a heart-stopping moment I thought it was one of the attackers. Then I saw the face, contorted with a mix of hatred and glee. Vivian, I choked out. My stepmother's smile was venomous. Hello, Alara. How very convenient to find you on your own. From behind her 2 male wolves appeared, their bodies partially transformed, claws unsheathed and fangs bared. I retreated slowly, my heart pounding violently. What are you doing here? Rectifying a mistake, Vivian spat. Did you truly believe I would stand by and let you become queen? A half-shift nobody who ought to have been drowned at birth? The poison in her words was familiar, but the desperation fueling it was new. The Alpha King chose me, I said, my voice firmer than I felt. You cannot alter that. Can't I? She advanced on me. A mating bond is only valid if both partners are alive, you little freak. If you were to meet a tragic end before the ceremony? She shrugged, the motion horrifyingly casual. The king would grieve, naturally, but in time he would select another. Someone more fitting. One of her own daughters was the unspoken implication. The puzzle pieces fell into place. Vivian's desperate attempts to keep me hidden, her fury when Nathaniel had selected me. It had never been about the pack's reputation. It had always been about her own naked ambition. You will not get away with this, I said, still backing away. Nathaniel will know you were responsible. Will he? With the palace in turmoil from this opportune border clash we've instigated? I think not. She gestured to the men at her back. Take her, make it appear as though she was caught in the fighting. They sprang forward. In that instant of sheer terror, something fundamental shifted within me. It was not a physical change, but an expansion of my awareness, as if a curtain had been torn from my senses. I could feel the moon high above the palace, its power pouring through stone and timber to find me. I could feel the frantic heartbeats of everyone in the corridor, the thrum of their emotions, fear, hate, and a lust for violence. Without conscious direction, my hand went to my mother's pendant. As my fingers closed over the silver, a wave of energy pulsed outward, flinging my assailants back as effectively as a physical strike. Vivian stumbled, her expression morphing from triumph to confusion, and then to raw fear. What? I am not what you believe me to be, I stated, my voice echoing with a strange resonance in the hallway. I never was. The pendant warmed in my hand, and with that heat came a surge of knowledge, ancient words bubbling up from some deep well inside me. I spoke them without comprehending their literal meaning, feeling their power bend the very air around us. The 2 male wolves collapsed to their knees, their hands clamped to their heads in agony. Vivian was still on her feet, but her face had turned a deathly white. "Moonspeaker," she breathed the word both a curse and an admission. Yes. The affirmation felt correct, settling into place within me like the final piece of a long unsolved puzzle. "Now leave this palace and do not return. If you do, I will know. I will always know." I cannot say whether it was my words or the power that infused them that finally broke her, but Vivian scrambled backward, grabbing her fallen men and hauling them with her. As they vanished down the corridor, the strange power that had filled me receded, leaving me trembling and disoriented. I had barely crossed the threshold into my chambers when my legs buckled, and I sank to the floor. The journal slipped from my fingers, its pages falling open to reveal an illustration that was an exact replica of what I had just done. A female figure holding a pendant, from which radiated lines of energy that repelled advancing wolves. Alara. Nathaniel's voice found me a moment before he did. He burst through the door with Lydia and several guards, his expression fraught with panic that gave way to relief upon seeing me unharmed. "Are you injured?" I shook my head, still too shaken to form words. He pulled me into his arms, his heart beating a rapid rhythm against my ear. "There was an attack," he explained quickly. "A synchronized attempt to breach the palace's defenses. When I couldn't locate you—" "Vivian," I managed to say. "She was here. She tried to murder me." A growl so deep it vibrated through my bones rumbled in his chest. "Where is she?" "Gone. I made her leave." I pulled back just enough to see his face. "Nathaniel, it happened. What you said would happen. I felt the power. I wielded it." Comprehension lit his eyes, quickly followed by a fierce pride that left me breathless. "Tell me." I did, my voice faltering at first, then gaining strength as I described the confrontation and the surge of power that had saved me. As I spoke, his expression changed from alarm to awe. "The equinox is not until tomorrow," he murmured, "but the threat and your need must have hastened the change." His fingers traced my cheek with reverence. "How do you feel?" How did I feel? Transformed, without a doubt. More attuned to everything around me, to the invisible threads connecting all life, but also, paradoxically, more like myself than I ever had before, as if I had finally grown into a part I had been unknowingly preparing for my entire life. "Whole," I said, the word simple but profound. His smile held everything, pride, love, and a hunger that mirrored the burgeoning desire in my own veins. "My queen," he whispered, the title no longer a mere formality, but a recognition of what I had become. The equinox ceremony the following day was simultaneously more and less than I had imagined. More, because as I stood in the open air, encircled by envoys from all 5 territories, I could perceive their emotions as distinct currents swirling around me: curiosity, doubt, hope, and fear. My new sensitivity made every moment intensely vivid, overwhelming at times, yet also thrilling. Less because when all was said and done, the complex ritual distilled down to a single, simple act. Nathaniel and I, standing opposite each other in the sacred circle, making our choice known before gods and mortals. "I choose you," he declared, his voice resonating across the silent assembly. "Not for what you are or what you may become, but for the person you are right now. I choose your courage, your compassion, your quiet resilience. I choose to stand with you, to defend you, to cherish you as my equal and my mate, from this day until my last." They were the traditional vows, yet he spoke them with such personal feeling that tears welled in my eyes. When it was my turn, the formal script felt insufficient. "I choose you," I started, then let the script fall away. "I choose the man who saw me when I was invisible, who found worth in me when I had lost sight of it myself. I choose your vision and your resolve, your concealed tenderness, and your evident strength. I choose to stand with you, to be your balance, to walk beside you in both shadow and light, from this day until my last." As the final syllable left my lips, the mating bond clicked into place between us. It was not the chain I had once imagined, but a bridge, a link that amplified rather than diminished our individual selves. I gasped at the sensation, at the sudden, complete awareness of Nathaniel not just before me, but as a presence within me, his emotions as tangible as my own. His eyes widened, confirming he felt the same extraordinary connection. I would later discover that this, too, was a unique feature of Moonspeaker matings, a bond that ran deeper than the physical, a union of spirit as well as flesh. The celebration that came after was a kaleidoscope of faces and sounds, of congratulations and renewed vows of fealty. I found myself observing the assembly with new insight, seeing past the spoken words to the emotions that lay beneath. The majority of the visiting leaders now regarded me with a cautious optimism. Their initial wariness had yielded to respect as they witnessed Nathaniel's transparent devotion and my own serene confidence. Lady Eleanor sought me out during a rare quiet moment, her eyes shining with approval. "You have already started to change things," she murmured, gesturing toward a group of rival pack alphas who were deep in a surprisingly amicable discussion. "They can sense it, even if they do not know what it is they are sensing." "The balance you spoke of," I said. She nodded. "Nathaniel united them through power and necessity. You will bind them together through empathy and understanding." Her weathered hand rested briefly on mine. "Together you will build something that has not been seen in generations. True peace." As the festivities swirled around us, my attention was repeatedly drawn to Nathaniel, the pull of our new bond as real as a physical cord. When our gazes locked across the bustling hall, I knew he felt it too, the urge to be alone to finalize what had been initiated in the sacred circle. Much later, in the sanctuary of the chambers we would now occupy together, I stood by the window, watching the full moon bathe the sleeping city in silver. Nathaniel's arms wrapped around me from behind, his chin coming to rest on my head. "Any regrets?" he asked quietly. I leaned into his embrace, drawing comfort from his warmth and solidity. "None. Even knowing the difficulties that lie ahead, the great responsibilities." I turned within his arms to face him. "Especially knowing those things. I spent my entire life being told I was too fragile, too different to be of any value." My hand rose to his cheek, feeling the light rasp of his stubble. "You helped me see that my difference is my strength. How could I ever regret claiming that?" His smile was slow and personal in the moonlight. "My wise queen." "Your equal," I corrected softly. "Always." He pulled me closer, his lips meeting mine with a familiar hunger that was now softened with great tenderness. Through our bond, I could feel his emotions weaving with my own, desire and a deep-seated need to protect, fierce joy, and something more profound still, a love that had evolved from recognition to a conscious choice, and finally to an unbreakable commitment. As we moved toward the bed, my thoughts drifted back to the terrified girl I had once been, locked away in an attic, convinced of her own insignificance. If I could reach her through time, I would urge her to hold on, to trust the light she carried within, even when everyone else tried to extinguish it. I would tell her that being different was not the same as being broken, that her true power was not in what she could or could not do, but in the person she chose to be, in spite of it all. I had been hidden away, cast aside, utterly dismissed, and yet the Alpha King had seen me. He had chosen me, and in being chosen I had finally found the strength to choose myself. Nan 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 nan.